Welcome to Content in Commerce. I have Isaac Morey today, and my name is Brent Peterson. We are here to talk about content and commerce. Isaac, go ahead. Let's start off. We're going to talk about AEO, AIO, GEO, lots of three-letter acronyms. Tell us some of those acronyms and what they mean.
Yeah, well, as you pointed out, we'll be talking about various forms of AI optimization. So, anyone who's been in digital marketing at all in the last 10 years or more knows about SEO, search engine optimization, which is the process of creating content that gets you discovered and seen on search engines. Most often, that would be Google, of course, but there are other search engine competitors out there like Bing, and of course, there's individual search engines for platforms like the Amazon search engine, and optimizing for that is obviously super important. But nowadays, we're facing an entirely new challenge, which is that people are discovering things not through search engines, but through LLMs. And just like we would tailor content and create content for the purpose of showing up on search engines, nowadays people are creating content to show up in LLMs, whether that means directly being cited by it or added as a source. And there's a few different names for that: AEO, AIO, GEO, and we can get into what those different names mean and if there's any differences at all between them and what they are.
Yeah, I mean, let's first talk about, because I've heard GEO as a specific term as compared to AEO, AIO. Maybe there's a difference between those two, or are there?
Okay, so let's start by breaking down what the acronyms stand for, and that'll give us a little bit of a hint as to where we're going. So, AIO, I'm going to confess, is my favorite. It's the most straightforward. Just like there's search engine optimization, AIO is artificial intelligence optimization. And that, you know, I think it's a good catch-all for, like, you're trying to show up on artificial intelligence programs. AEO, which is another common term. In this case, it's answer engine optimization. And that's a little broader. So an answer engine could be ChatGPT or Perplexity, but it could also be something like Siri or Alexa, where you're asking a question conversationally and getting an answer back. And then GEO is generative engine optimization, and in these cases, I've seen people argue that this term is different because it refers to things beyond the text itself, but more holistically trying to show up in generative engines. So whether that's in the training data or through best practices like your website or customer sentiment analysis. But I would say AIO and GEO are very much synonymous. Answer engine, there's definitely a bit of extra territory that's covered there in terms of, like, the voice assistants, and I do think those have a different logic to how they source answers. But even among all three, I would say the details are kind of minute, and probably it'll all coalesce under a single acronym that gets really popular over time. My vote is for AIO, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think the voice search engine optimization is another realm that we'll go into it in later episodes. Let's not get into that now. Kind of describe the differences then between this newer way of searching through LLMs compared to the traditional way through SEO.
Yeah, well, let's start by thinking about it from your experience as the customer or the user. Uh, the thing that I think makes it special is you can get an answer that's really tailored to you on a level that's difficult with just a search engine. So, if we're looking for running shoes, you could search, good running shoes for long distance, good running shoes for, like, wet conditions, or any whole variety of things that you might care about. But if you're trying to enter like 10 parameters at once, like I want running shoes and, you know, whatever, I live in Chicago and I do half marathons, but I'm looking to move to a marathon. I mean, you can get so specific and granular in many different areas to where you're getting an article that's kind of custom written for you, or an answer that's custom written for you. and for your exact situation. So that, I think, is the major strength. On the flip side, there is some weaknesses, and one major weakness is the lack of an editorial process and of human oversight, basically. So if something like this is published in like a reputable sporting magazine, you can feel pretty good that it's had some level of control, whereas if you're just getting it from chatgpt.com, it could have been confused or be hallucinating, or could be overemphasizing one of the parameters you put in to a flawed extent. I think it's a bit of a trade-off, and that underscores why it's important as a user to fact check and verify and check the LLMs, but the level of customization is definitely unique and powerful and a huge advantage.
Yeah, dig into that flawed intent. Is that what you said earlier? And while you're doing that, I'm gonna David has just phoned in from Spain, I think. I'm gonna let him in, but go ahead and kind of describe that.
So I think we all know about hallucinations at this point. You can't 100% put your faith in anything that an LLM says. You have to double check and be wary of that kind of thing. And I think you can especially start to see this too when you start asking questions about a field or a subject that you really know a lot about. You start to see those cracks in its process and in its thinking. And the scary thing is when you're asking about things that you don't know as well, those can fly under the radar a lot more easily. And LLMs are so confident in the way that they answer your questions and present their statements as truth that it's easy to get caught off guard. So I think that's the major downside.
From a technical standpoint, should merchants start looking at a different way of doing their pages for LLMs compared to the traditional SEO?
Yeah, so actually, to go back to your question a minute ago, because you were asking about the difference between LLMs and search, and I was talking from more of a user perspective. From the perspective of someone who's looking to get discovered, like a store, for example, in an e-commerce store or online service provider or anything like that, there are a few differences and also some important underlying similarities. So to start with the similarities, you want to create content that explains your ideas in depth, that is helpful and genuinely seeks to educate people and present your ideas in an organized fashion and so on. And that, I think, is the same either way. Those are the kinds of things that Google is looking for because they know that it will be helpful to their users, and it's the kind of thing that LLMs are looking for because it's good information presented in an organized fashion from a reputable source and so on. But when it comes to LLM optimization, AIO, there are some additional factors to look into. For one, site speed seems to be more important even than with Google because they're trying to pull these answers quickly through online search, and so they don't want to wait around. Basically, like if your website takes 10 seconds to load, ChatGPT has to give an answer to the user before that'll happen, so they're going to look elsewhere for the information. And then another important difference is that LLMs seem to be training and relying on social media more so than search engines. So it kind of underscores the importance not just of writing for your blog, but of repurposing that into social media content, for example.
And David has just made it here from Madrid, I think. What you just talked a little bit about that the LLMs don't want to wait around for somebody to join or I wanted me to say that they don't want to wait around for the page to load, right?
Yeah.
Tell us, David, tell us a little bit about your experience that you've been going through recently and just scraping websites and getting that score from Google, and how that represents or how that reacts then with the way LLMs are going to look at your website.
Sure. Well, sorry for being late earlier. I couldn't log in for whatever reason, but I'm here now. Well, the whole thing started with analyzing 138 websites, right? And we noticed that of all the websites, a lot of those websites had Google gave them an F for failing, right? But I'm expanding that study to, so far I have done 481, and I have pretty interesting numbers that Google is giving 272 an F, 21 websites or 481 an A, 45 websites a B, 71 websites a C, 72 websites a D, and there are 5% of those websites that take over 2 minutes to load. So they don't make it even there through Google Page Speed Insights. To your point, Isaac, speed. If speed is important, I mean, you can do as pretty as you want a website, and that's good because websites should be optimized for humans and for agentic searches or agentic whatever it is that we are calling it these days. But I think the bottom line is that if you are one of the 5% that your website doesn't even record analytics, forget about selling your products, right? Or selling whatever it is that you are selling. Even if I would say that you have to be an A or a B plus for an LLM to wait because they have too many choices. Why would you wait to join, as you say, Brent? Why would the LLM wait for somebody website to take 2 minutes when in 2 minutes probably the LLM can crawl how many? 50 websites?
Yeah, that's such a great point, Isaac. Tell us why that speed is so important on when people are searching for something, no matter if it's an LLM or if it's a regular Google.
Yeah, well, like we said, LLMs are more sensitive to speed, but even Google, one of their web quality metrics is site speed. So if you're loading really slow, that's also going to hurt your rankings. And Google will probably give their users a site that's faster, which brings us to our last point. Not only is the slow site hurting you in LLMs and hurting you in search engines, it's not great for the actual humans who find it either. Because, I mean, if it's taking 2 minutes, obviously, a lot of people are going to bounce. But even for a matter of seconds, like with every second that goes by, a certain percentage of your users bounce. And, I mean, I think any of us can confirm that if you just think about your own experience. The last time a website took, multiple seconds to load, you very well might have gone somewhere else, or, it just doesn't inspire confidence in general.
Yeah.
So, I think, like it's important for the robots and for the technology that's trying to evaluate the quality of your site, but also those metrics exist for a reason, and part of that is because they're all trying to give users what they want, and users don't like slow sites either. So I think there's tons of data to show if your site's faster, you're going to get more conversions and you're going to get more traffic.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So we have a few minutes left here. David, tell us what you're working on next. You don't have to go into granular numbers, but you're expanding this study. You're looking at more data. It feels like a lot of more than half the users out there have really slow websites, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yes. Oh, yes. Way more than, and this is just no WordPress, right? I'm not looking at platform. I'm just looking at the website, right? At the URL and just the front page, right? Other pages, but if you think about this, that I think that the biggest problem is that if you have a website that is slow and you have 5 pages, okay, you can manage, right? If it's like my website, well, I'm not selling products, right? But if you are selling products and you have 100 websites and you don't have a process to quality control, a well-designed, a fast speed, you could have a compound mess, because now you have 100 different pages, right? And I don't think that there is maybe there is a tool out there that is super pricey that doesn't, right? So I'm working on on trying to figure out how to allow people to do a quick search or something fast, right? Something that they don't need to be technical, because a lot of business owners, they are not technical, right? If you look at the Google recommendation, as says that you are rendering resources whatever, what too many. Well, what does that mean, right? So I think I will need a tool that is a little bit easier to not just for developers but business owners.
Isaac, so we're back here in 2 weeks. I think that's October 23rd is the next date. What should we look forward to in our next episode?
Well, I think we'll definitely be talking. I mean, this whole trend of LLMs slowly overtaking search engines, or in some cases quickly overtaking search engines, is only going to accelerate. So I think that'll still be on the queue of things to talk about, and we'll be creeping into the holiday shopping season, which is going to be, the highest percentage of LLM-based sales and customer discovery that we've ever seen so far, to be dwarfed, obviously, I think next year and the year after and the year after, until LLMs are where all the shopping is. But this is definitely the start of like a new season of change. So if you have an online store, I think this stuff is worth paying attention to. And yeah, you can tune in here to hear us talking about it.
And I think that we're going to talk specifically about structured data, because everybody loves to hear about structured data. Nobody knows what it is, but people need it, right?
Yep.
All right. So David and Isaac, thank you so much for being here today. It's been a great conversation. Like this 15 minutes went so fast. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.